Inside, I was not happy. I was living in stress. I know a lot of people just think this is just how it is and I've got to get on with it. But actually, when you're ignoring your own needs and your own values, a little bit of your soul dies. You kind of lose yourself. I got support with a coach to help me on my journey to start and make those shifts and completely turn my life around so that I am now helping other people, taking the big leaps. That was where the empowered change came in, because a lot of people will resonate with my story. I spent my life very much a people pleaser, I suppose I would say. And much as it's lovely to do things, and I always will do things for other people, you've got to do it from a full cup.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. Hello everyone, I'm delighted to be joined today by the lovely Jo Rose of Conscious Change. She's the creator of the Empowered Change Method, and Jo is here today to share her wisdom with all of us. Jo, a massive welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. So, Jo, introduce us all a little bit more to you and your work and how you developed the Empowered Change Method and what it's all about and who it's for.
Okay, I will. So I have been in the coaching world for a lot of years, since way back in 2008. And my background before that was actually social work. So from as young as I can remember, Lucy, I just wanted people to feel better, to believe in themselves. And I always felt like people shouldn't be judged for who they are. They should be able to show up as who they are. So I remember that from so young. Mm-hmm. So I took the social work path, and then I remember discovering coaching. I'd never heard it before and just knew that was what I wanted to do. But what I continued to do actually was help other people to make that change and not really doing the work myself. Mm-hmm. And I was an incredibly shy child, and just was one of those people that would have told myself I just didn't have confidence. I had a lot of social anxiety, things like that. And for most of my life, actually. And even though I was coaching and helping people make change in their life, it was only a few years ago when I really came to a pivotal point in my own life where I was like, okay, I'm making a choice here whether to carry on kind of ignoring my own needs, or I make a choice. And that's sort of where conscious choice comes into it, because we've got to become aware and make a choice to make change for ourselves. So what that looked like for me was I'd been married twice to the same person, and although we had an amazing life from the outside, beautiful home, cars, travel all around the world, we had businesses together and our own careers, and I was coaching. Inside, I was not happy at all, and I was living in stress. And I know a lot of people just think this is just how it is and I've got to get on with it. But actually, when you're ignoring your own needs and your own values, a little bit of your soul dies, and you kind of lose yourself. So, I made a decision to leave my marriage. A pivotal point of that, actually, and a really important part of the work that I do, is I lost my sister when she was in her mid-40s. And she had become really unwell. She couldn't cope with her feelings, and she actually didn't believe in herself that she could make changes to her life. Wow. And so, here I was ignoring everything that life was showing me. I was living in this stress. I'd developed fibromyalgia, and I was ignoring it, and I think that can probably relate to, for a lot of people, that they're ignoring the things and maybe in that mind that this is just how it is, when actually you can make changes in your life, in any area of your life. And this is your life, and you really have got to make that conscious choice. So my own pathway, because when you make a big change in your life, it's not easy, right. All the doubts and fears come up, and you've got to deal with the thoughts and beliefs, the limits that got you to where you were, for me, for where I was at that time. And yeah, boy, they showed up, but I got support with a coach to help me on my journey
Mm.
and to start and make those shifts and completely turn my life around so that I am now helping other people, having taken the big leaps
Yeah.
and walked the path myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where the empowered change came in, because a lot of people will resonate with my
Yeah.
story. I spent my life pretty much very much the people pleaser, I suppose I would
I
say.
knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know Chronic people pleaser. And
Mm.
much as it's lovely to do things, and I always will do things for other people, you've got to do it from a full cup.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
um so there's nothing special about me and my journey, but the special thing is that I'm now able to help people on a pathway to change, and that is the empowered change method. And it quite simply is a 7-step methodology to help people navigate change.
Mm.
And it's taken into account all the different things, because I've always coached, my background's NLP, and so I understand behavior change,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always done very therapeutic work with people. But
Mm.
the empowered change method, because of what I've experienced myself as well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to help people navigate all the things that come up.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset shift that you need to even be open to
Yeah.
opportunity that's available to you. Yeah. And navigate your emotions, because
Mm.
that's often where, people want to try and control, suppress their emotions and just stay safe,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that perceived safety, and making change, from the old program. So if you are in that, like me, that belief that, well, I'm just not someone who's confident, and maybe I'm just here to make sure everyone else is okay. Those beliefs, you can't make change and create a different future from that mindset. So stepping into the identity
Mm-hmm.
of the life that you're wanting to create, and
Yeah.
who you really are. It's not a new you. It's the you
The
that's
real you.
inside. Yeah,
Mm.
it's the you that's inside. So it follows all of that and really connects you to your resources and create that vision for yourself, because often we're stuck in what the problem is and we can't really see
Mm.
the vision that we want and what's possible for us. So really creating that vision that you want for yourself, and as you know, then aligning to that,
Yeah.
is really important, and manifesting that for yourself.
Yeah.
A really important part of it, Lucy, for me along the way was, when you're making change, having the habits and practices in
Yeah.
place then that help you to be consistent
Yeah.
and not to fall back into old patterns. So that is a really pivotal point as well, helping people with those habits and practices that keep them moving forward. And what I actually do, so people present with, an issue that's affecting them at that time, and we work through that. But
Mm-hmm.
then we're able to take those steps literally as a strategy for change
Mm-hmm.
for any area of their life,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're not just focused on one area and then feeling like we're missing a bit somewhere else, but that's a catalyst for change then in all areas of your
All
life. And
areas.
that just is so empowering, and
Yeah.
I don't claim to have it all sorted. I'm still on that journey too.
Yeah.
We always are.
You're
So
always there, but you also, when you're so many, like, so much further down the road than somebody else, that's the way I see it. You can always help somebody who's further behind than you. And you mentioned there, like, relationship and health things. And I think, they're pivotal in all of this, aren't they? Because I'm curious, you left the marriage, is that back now in, is you said you were married twice, or did it not work out? Like,
yeah,
how did?
so when I first got married, we were only 19 and 20,
Yeah.
and we had a young baby,
Yeah.
and there was all doing the right thing,
Mm.
expectation around that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we married very young, and we were only together for a few years. Obviously, we had continued relationship with each other with our daughter.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later, we got back together
Yeah.
and remarried. But as I talked about, you can't change your life if you're still in the old program.
Yeah.
I hadn't made any changes. I was
Yeah.
going back into that marriage with all of the hopes. I wanted things to be different.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have a family, together, my
Mm.
daughter to have her parents. But I was ignoring the fact that our values weren't aligned. We didn't
Yeah.
want the same things from life. Yeah. So, although, we threw ourselves into it, the unhappiness was
Yeah.
building, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think that, well, it's so important to identify that kind of thing. And like you say, you were going back into it with hope, but not with, I guess, the necessary ingredients for it to work out. And I've seen that happen before, actually, where people have kind of gone back and got back together and for quite a long time, but then ultimately gone, oh, okay, no, there was a reason why it didn't work out,
yeah,
and that's okay. But also, like, I think when you're sad or stressed or all of these things, it health never escapes that. It never goes unscathed, does it? I think
yeah,
I've seen so many people where the health issues come from, physical health issues but they come from the heart, and therefore sometimes the mind, like the
yeah,
combined, which is crucial. We need our
mhm,
health, right? So
mhm,
I love the way your work is all encompassing.
yeah, yeah. And I don't often talk about the sort of the fibromyalgia, but
Mm.
but just what we're talking on health, I think it's really important because again, people say to themselves, "Well, there's nothing you can do about it." And when I went to my GP, he didn't want to diagnose it because he said there was nothing he could do. But obviously, I had enough awareness to say to him, "Well, actually, I feel that this is to do with my life choices right now and things that I need to deal with on a
Mm.
psychological level, and I'm going to seek that out." But it was actually by making the choices that were right for me in
Yeah.
life that so I didn't go on a particular path of looking for a healing or cures as such for fibromyalgia, but making the changes in my life that were right for me, loving
Yeah.
myself more is,
Yes.
is actually what allowed my body then to release, as you say, the sadness and the stress that I was
Mm.
holding in my body because I was shutting myself
Mhm.
down on my own needs in
Yeah.
order to make this work and to navigate the relationship that wasn't right. So,
Yeah.
but yes, you know, the pathway, the empowered change method. I mean, there's many methodologies that people can use that they're aligned with, which is fabulous. I incorporate obviously NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, but also breath work and meditation. So I love the fact that you can bring in what
Yeah.
really works best for people and bring things together to help people make change in any area of their
Mm.
life. It is pretty awesome.
It really, really is. And I think people underestimate this. So many people sadly wait until they've tried everything, or they don't even try anything and they'll get that diagnosis and think that's it. Not my fault, can't do anything about this, can't be helped, and almost lean into it and own it, but too much to the point that they learn a helplessness around it.
Mhm,
And there's so much our that inner work can do. And you mentioned about that loving self-love, and I think that's something I've been it sounds obvious when you say it, but it's in all the songs and all the movies and quotes, but almost cliche. But actually, I don't know if I've ever thought about it like I have recently, to the depth of,
mhm,
wow, you really, all the things are better if you have that inner self-love. And I think we're conditioned, I know I was conditioned in the playground not to love yourself, quite bluntly. And it's like so damaging. Never
yeah,
realized how damaging that was in childhood. But it's the key to everything, because then you're going to
yeah.
look after your health, your well-being, your choices, your behaviors, and so on. But so how do people then do that? Even if you consciously recognize that, or you spot it, and if you are somebody who works on yourself and you think, okay, that's fine, I need to take care of these things and insert these habits and practices. But we all know so often those good intentions fade, or they last so long and it's like, oh yeah, I stopped doing that, or I didn't stay consistent. And
Hmm.
is there anything that you feel is key to harnessing those changes so they're permanent, so they become
Hmm.
part of who you are as identity, I guess, is it?
Hmm. Yeah, and I suppose that's sort of multi-layered as well, because we need to bring our awareness to, and yes, shift that identity, what we believe about ourselves and the situation. So, just asking yourself a few questions when you find yourself maybe responding to something with, oh no, I can't do that, or
Mm,
oh no, it's not possible, or, whatever it happens to be, is that true? And what do you believe about yourself in that situation? So maybe it's like, I don't feel that I'm good enough for it or that I can achieve it. But is that true? We just accept our thoughts,
yeah.
and they're automatic. I know you've talked about this before about, the number of thoughts, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and, that they're mostly recurring and negative.
Mm,
And that's automatic. And
yeah.
I think it's just even knowing that you can bring your awareness to that and change it. So you start to become aware during the day of your thinking process and whether it's true. You don't have to believe the thought. So that I mean, that is, it seems really simple. Just become more aware of what you're thinking and questioning, is it true? But it just brings your attention to the things you're believing that aren't true, and allows you then to pause and make a different choice.
Mm,
And then the identity piece, yeah, that we talk to, but the beliefs that we have are, we can change those. I think that's the thing that's really important. We don't have to just accept what we've, that conditioning that we've had from our family and our culture and everything. We can look at it and say, does this actually support me? And make a change.
mm,
And we can do that by repetition, or by strong emotion. So if we start to embed those practices in our life. So, like 92%, I think it is, of successful people have a morning practice to set themselves up for the day,
mm,
so that they're not waking up in the old version of themselves. Joe Dispenza, who I absolutely love, he would say people wake up looking for the familiar self,
mm-hmm.
when actually you wake up and you connect to the truth of who you are and the vision of what you want for yourself. So that brings
Mm,
then to the next part of the really important piece, which is having that really compelling, a lot of people call it a why, but desire in your life that draws you and motivates you
mm,
and excites you for what it will bring to your life and the people that you love and care about,
yeah.
in your life. Even if we go right back to the self-love bit,
Yeah.
if you love yourself and you're coming from that place in all
Mm,
of your relationships,
yeah.
how amazing is that,
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that was clear. So, the self-awareness and deciding on what best supports
Yeah.
you, and the habits that support that morning practice. I mean, that's one of the things that I do with my clients, is a morning practice to set yourself up for the day,
Mm,
so that you are observing what's happening around you and able to respond from a empowered and solution focused place,
yeah.
rather than reacting to what's happening in your life and being then just your energy being dispersed and just being engrossed in everybody's drama and the things that are going on. And there's always
Mm,
plenty of drama, or somebody that wants to point out all the things that are wrong, and that drains your energy, and it's so easy to
yeah.
get sucked into that. So yeah, morning practice,
Yeah.
being self-aware, really embodying all of that, I think is.
Mm. And this is where I've always been such an advocate for coaches and
Mhm.
mentors and people, because sometimes, yes, they bring completely newfound wisdom or insight that you didn't see.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can't always see everything when you're in the fog. So
Yeah.
having outside eyes is one big part of it. And but I think the thing even more so, and the reason I always work with people on various different things, is because even if I look at somebody and go, well, I know all the same things that she knows, or do you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing. She's not gonna give me any like secret sauce or aha, wow, never knew that. But it's not about that. It's
Hmm.
about the person who sees you and understands you enough to be able to keep you moving and keep you accountable. And there are things that I'm like, yeah, I know that, but I haven't embodied that, and I'm not practicing and living in that continually. It comes and goes, and actually that's where, the same as a PT, what PT really teaches you an exercise. If you're somebody who goes to the gym, they're probably not going to teach you a brand new move that's going to completely and utterly change your body. They're just going to know which ones are best suited to you for the goals that you've set out, and they're going to be the person that keeps you doing it. And I think all types of coaches and coaching, that's absolutely what it's about. Yes, to see your blind spots, but to help you stay on the path to the outcomes you desire or that are the best for you, and keeping you accountable, keeping you doing it. And yeah, there's no substitute for that. Like, I think, and
Yeah.
that's where I think we all always need those people in our
Mhm.
lives. And find me one hugely successful person that doesn't have that kind of help and support. Like, it's unheard of. Too
Yeah.
many people try to do it on their own, don't they? Especially in England. I think that we have this very I'm okay attitude. I don't know. Do you find that
Yeah.
culturally?
Yeah, yeah, I think still we're not. I think it's improving. I think we're
Yeah.
still not as open. I think it's still like even coaching, people still think of, that the therapy title, and they
Mm.
maybe think that they don't want people to know that they've been
Yeah,
coached.
like
But
there's something wrong with
actually,
me.
it's actually you're taking responsibility for improving yourself, dealing with an issue, achieving your goals, whatever it is, and celebrate. I always work with a coach, whether it's for something for me personally, whether
Yeah.
it's in relation to my business,
Mm.
because as you said, they can see your blind spots.
Yeah.
And we all, as you're growing, in the entrepreneurial world, you're coming up against new levels of expansion. So the doubts and fears come back up. You've got a new
Yeah.
level to break through, and you need help to do that, because when, as you said, when you're in the fog, it can be hard to see. But I how I would speak to it is, it's nearly like sinking sand. It pulls you in. It's nearly addictive when you're in the
Yeah.
stuck state,
Yeah.
of just staying there. You shouldn't stay there. It's not good for you, but it, it nearly feels easier than trying to break through the
Familiar, isn't
barrier.
it?
Yeah, yeah. So actually having someone that can help you see what that pattern is, that it's, your natural unconscious trying to keep you safe, but you are safe.
Yeah.
And actually, whenever you take that leap, that feeling of having achieved that and the draw of what you're working towards is also addictive and really pulls you in the best direction to all of
Mm.
who you are.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we do. And I have to say, I have always been quite guilty of doing it myself. My son recently said to me, we were talking about your positives and your negative, what are your good and negative points? And he said, well, you're very calm and you always listen without judgment, even if you don't agree with someone else's opinion. That's theirs, and
Yeah.
you'll accept that and discuss it or whatever. He said, but you're far too independent and you don't ask for help enough. So
Enough. Yeah.
I suppose that's more in daily life. I'm kind of like, "Oh, I can do it."
Yeah.
Um, but in relation to change in my life, I absolutely know the benefit of coaches, because my
Yeah.
life um, is completely transformed in relation to how I experience it
Yeah.
every day and
Yeah.
how I know what is possible for me. So I'm open to the opportunities. I know that even when it feels scary, I am capable
Mm.
of doing it. And we're so much more capable than we realize, even with the
Mm.
self-healing and with what we can achieve.
Yeah.
So I think if we just get more curious about
Mm-hmm.
what's possible. I
Yeah.
think I love the word curious,
Yeah.
rather than just accepting things as zero. Well, what if I just tried this out to see
Yeah.
the benefits? Or what if I learned a bit more about this to see what was possible? I think the more actually you get curious and learn, the more you realize there is to learn and grow. So I know for me, I mean, I mentioned Joe Dispenza. I love delving into his work and just all different areas. And I just realised how much there is still
Yeah.
to learn and find out about how amazing we are and this
Yeah.
world. So,
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much we're still so primitive in so many ways, aren't we? And I think that, yeah, to be sort of set in your ways that you aren't open to what could be possible, and like you say, just accepting what is. I mean, there's a certain amount of calm of accepting what is, but if
mhm,
what is not as it could be, and I think this is applicable to everyone, not just, we obviously have an audience, lots of ambitious entrepreneurial
yeah,
types, which
mhm,
we're a different ilk, aren't we? Like we're always looking for like what's next and how do you up level. But even for people who are not that way inclined, that are, and I have friends and family members I know who are like much more, not, I wouldn't even say content, but just don't have that drive to become all that's possible for them, or live
mhm,
an
mhm,
extraordinary life like I do. But
yeah,
nobody, not everybody has got that drive. But I always think, even if you're happy with everything being pretty average and you're not seeking an extraordinary life, within that average, there's bound
mhm,
to be pain points. There's bound to
yeah,
be elements of ick that could be better. I know people who are, quite happy in an employed state. They don't have any entrepreneurial bone in their bodies, but actually their health, their relationships, their just how they feel in their own
yeah,
skin could be better. And that's where I really think that that curiosity that you mentioned of what,
yes,
well, what could I, people, I hear people talk about, those demons that come up in the night and the thoughts or the way. It's like, don't have to just accept that. You
yeah,
can do something about that. And how freeing would it be? And what other ripple effect things might come of addressing that, like improved health and I don't know, just happier time. Like I just
yeah,
that I don't think anybody is, well, nobody's perfect. Nobody has it all figured out, and nobody has to just accept their what's dished up.
absolutely. And yeah, and there's nothing wrong. Everybody, we're all unique and we all have our own path.
Mm,
And there's no right or wrong about the life path that you've chosen. And we need people and jobs and we need entrepreneurs and we
yeah,
need all of that. But yes, as you said, there are things that people are tolerating
yeah,
that they don't need to tolerate. And if they
mm,
actually were able to practice some like radical honesty with themselves about what
mm,
they're tolerating, there are things that they can change that they're maybe telling themselves they can't. I know, we've spoken about emotions and often that's the thing that you're most aware of. Those are your indicator. And
yeah,
actually our emotions are the most amazing thing because they are actually information
mm,
about what we're focusing on and whether it's aligned for our well-being, positive outcomes, all of that. So, I mean, I just, as I said, as a very self-conscious and anxious young woman, I tried to suppress all that and keep this perfect facade on the
yeah,
outside, which was a bit what my life looked like, perfect on the outside. And actually, all of those emotions were information that I wasn't aligned with my capability and
mm,
health and well-being and all of those things. So they're actually information, and I use a technique that I put together from different modalities that I use with my clients called the rapid release and reconnect technique, and
oh,
it's
yeah,
about emotions. So it's you know noticing what you're feeling, and rather than trying to suppress it,
mm,
allowing it to be
mhm,
and giving it its name and going, okay, that's anxiety, and be with
mm,
it,
yeah,
and then to just notice how you're creating that, because your thoughts are actually pictures and in our mind, and just allowing it, and then using the your physiology and your breath to just
yeah,
shift that and release it, and in deeper work we can use the same method then to release the limitations and things. It's a very energetic, an energy release thing. But just even in relation to shifting your emotions,
mm,
noticing the emotion, allowing yourself to be in it and how you're creating it, and then just relax the shoulders and the jaw and all the things that we tense, and using the breath to release it, and then deciding, well, actually, what best supports me here? Well, I'd like to
mm,
feel nice and calm, or I need to be strong for this, or
yeah,
you choose what best supports you in the moment, or
mm,
even just that love. just breathe in that peace and love. How healing is that? It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, no matter what our choices are in life, what stage in life we're at of personal growth, or if that hasn't been our path so far, there's so much possible to just experience life in a more free and joyful way. I actually remember a few years back walking along the road, was out for a walk, and I just noticed literally that I just felt happy for no
Yeah.
reason, because remember I'd always been very controlled with everything.
Yeah.
Um, and that was actually a wow moment for me. I'd been on a bit of a spiritual journey in recognizing that, I'm more than just this physical body
Yeah.
and all of that. And I just was like, wow, I'm just walking along here and I'm smiling and I'm happy. And there's no particular reason, just that I've let go of so much and I know that I am love and worthy and all of those things. So even just that, having that shift where you can just feel lighter and happier and choose how you want to show up, I think is really empowering for all of us every day.
Such a nice level of consciousness, isn't it? That
Yeah.
almost transcendence of just feeling that freedom and appreciation. And I think some people maybe have never had that feeling. For
Yeah.
some, and quite commonly, I think it comes and goes, and you have those moments and you're like, oh, I actually, this morning I had a moment where just stopped in my tracks, physically stopped, and went, the air, the sky, just the atmosphere around me just felt, I was just like, wow. And I can see the same spot now from where I'm sitting.
Uh-huh.
And it's a view I see daily. But that moment, just walking back to the door, and I just went, oh God, wow. And like such appreciation just for the air, and the environment. And it was like, it's nothing. It's the sort of thing that usually we're head down, we're in our phones, we're down and
Yes.
in, down and in, down and in. And actually I was on the phone and a call that I needed to finish, and I actually stopped and went, oh my goodness, I'm just taking this moment in. Hold on, I'll finish talking to you. I'm going to take this moment and then I'm going to carry on, because I don't want this to pass me by.
Yeah.
And it's the small things that
Hmm.
just lift you when you allow that. And I think
Yes.
it doesn't have to take forever, and you don't have to be broken. You don't have to have
Hmm.
something wrong to need to be fixed. And I think that's
Yeah.
it's like I love that you use the word empowerment, because it is empowering. It's how can I take who I am and the gifts I have, and actually use that to either go further, make a bigger impact, do more great stuff in the world, or even just feel better, become more of who I really am. And we probably spend our lives figuring that out. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
many of our listeners, I'm in my 40s and I'm there going, I'm only just really rediscovering who I am. And it's the same me I was as a kid. But along the way, we lose sight of it, don't we?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And that
Lose
is
ourselves.
that is the journey, isn't it? And
Mm,
yeah, as you said, just, you know, no matter what your goals are for yourself, just allowing in all that gorgeousness that's all around.
mm,
I love those moments myself. And yeah, even if it's just as a parent, for
yeah,
people who are parents, showing up from a place of love for yourself and for life, how differently you show up for them and show them that they
yeah.
can love themselves and choose what's right for them, and you know appreciate just the amazingness and beauty that is all around us, as you say, that we often don't pay attention to. And I would often say that to people, when you're out today, just look up and notice
Yes.
what's around you.
That's one of
And
the
yeah,
things, isn't it? That I
yeah,
mean, especially I'm parenting teens
yeah,
and helping them, because they live in a world that, you know, is digital and has been for as long as they can remember. So teaching them that, when I used to get the bus to school or whatever, I am looking out, and there wasn't anything else there. At best, you might have a CD Walkman,
yeah,
but but your eyes, you are still like looking around and thinking. And I do worry that they are so consumed now and not aware of what's around them. And I think that's such an important thing to keep going. and
Yeah.
keep harping on about,
Yeah.
whilst accepting that it is part of their world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does create connection that, we wouldn't have had. I know certainly for my son during the pandemic, technology enabled him to keep that connection with friends and things. But yeah, you just see people now and they're not even looking up because they're focused on a device. So it's really important to just
Mm,
look up and be present in the
yes.
moment.
Key to all happiness, I think, lies
Yeah,
in
yeah,
presence, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah,
So, what would you say if our listeners are thinking like, I really love what these ladies are talking about, and I want some of that, but they're feeling like they have certain blocks or patterns that they're not sure how to break free of, or maybe they can't even identify them. Because I know I've been there where I've gone, there's
yeah.
something and I don't know what it is. Like,
Hmm.
what would be sort of a first and simple step for somebody listening that's like, what could I do today?
So they feel they've a block. Well, just, yeah, as we talked about, bringing awareness to it.
Mm,
Journaling is an amazing way to do that. You
mm,
know, writing down, what is the situation, what I believe about it, what's possible, you know, what else is possible, what I believe about myself in this situation, and is that true? And just question it and start
mm,
to make that shift. Now, I know a lot of people talk about affirmations. I'm not a fan of affirmations if you're just trying to put an affirmation on top of something that's not working, because that's not working. But even if you can start to say to yourself, okay, I am becoming more open to this.
mhm,
I'm learning and growing. You're shifting that energy from being like, okay, yeah, I don't even know how to fix this. I'm stuck in the problem. I mean, the universal laws tell us for every problem there is a solution. That's the natural law, but we get stuck in the problem. But just curiosity,
mhm,
compassion for
mm,
yourself and your situation. I don't believe anyone is ever broken. Anything that we're experiencing is information for us to pay
mm,
attention to what we maybe need to change. So
yeah,
what's showing up for you? What do you believe about it and yourself?
mm,
And yeah,
mm.
challenge that just and say, well, what's possible?
Yeah, that's so true, and it is something simple that we can do. It's kind of growth mindset asset there as
Yeah,
well, with the
yeah,
whole, well, if I believe I'm, am I saying to myself I can't do this, or
yeah.
this is, a barrier for me? Well, like you said, is that true? And what
Hmm.
if you changed it, even if you don't know how? What if you change it to, I don't know how. Recognize that, like you said,
Yeah,
acknowledge that, but could you find out how? Could you seek
yeah.
a source, a person,
Hmm.
a means to finding the
Yeah,
answer? And yeah, my kids' school teach that right from reception. There, they
okay.
don't have I can't, they have I'm learning how, or I can't do this yet. And the
Yes,
yet
yeah.
comes in. And
Love the power of yet.
yeah, and that even that one single word
Hmm.
creates hope, creates curiosity. Well, then,
Yeah.
if I can't do it yet, what do I need to do so that I can? And
Yes.
overcome that. So, yeah, I love that. And that is so that, like, yeah,
Yeah.
if tiny kids can do that, any of us
Yeah.
adults can do that,
Brilliant.
right?
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that they're doing that at that young age. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is a great one. And I'm a big fan of journaling, or however it best takes shape for
Yeah.
each person. And then we talked a little bit about things we can do to make those changes. How, if there's some one sort of takeaway that you would love our listeners to take away and remember today about lasting change. So they've got sort of some first steps and recognition here, but they
Hmm.
want to actually take something and make it stick, especially when we have the whole new year resolution
Oh,
culture of, oh, I'm gonna do this, and you know that by about now, people are like, I'm not doing that so much. It's dropped off, or oh, I fell off the wagon, or whatever it might be. So I guess a takeaway that people can either remember, not necessarily action, just something to bear in mind for creating lasting change. Is there something you can?
okay. Well, I mean, for the lasting change, that underlying belief really needs visited, and we've talked about that. Just start needing to bring your awareness to that. So just paying attention to what you want instead. What is it that you want instead? And what will that bring to you? There's something about that that's really a value for you in your life. So having that, what you want, aligned with why that's important, and focus on that every day when you wake up, that the feeling of what that brings to you, and move forward with that. I just think that is so powerful. It takes us back to that morning practice, and it brings in, your awareness, the thing that draws you toward it. And I know people talk about gratitude a lot, and that's kind of taken us off on a different path, but it's really powerful as well for shifting your energy into that, all it is. But yeah, just what do you want instead? Why is that important to you? And how can you move even a step toward that every day? What changes can you make? But there's so many things that I just would love to tell them all. And if you need help on that path, you can't see it for yourself, let go of the story that it's not for you, that you can't afford it, whoever it happens to be, and you're worth it, and just go and get the support that will help you in whatever area of your life it is that you want that support, because there's so much available. So yeah,
I love that. Jo, it's been so insightful and a pleasure having this conversation with you today, and perhaps we'll do a masterclass at some point, or do something deeper and do a deep dive for those that want to come and join us and do something like that. But for now, if anyone has any questions, or they're like, I'm really itching to they're listening, they're in the car and they're like, I want to ask this lady a question, where can people best find you? We will put this in the show notes anyway, but what's your best place of...
you can find me on Instagram under Jo Rose Conscious Change, or on LinkedIn, for more business networking, is just Jo Rose. Great. But I'm on Facebook as well, Jo Rose Conscious Change, and my website is Jo Rose Conscious Change. So it keeps it all clear and easy to find. So
love that.
Yes, that would be lovely. And thank you so much. It's been so fabulous to talk to you today.
Pleasure. I love these conversations. It's great. It's such a hard life having these great deep and meaningful. I will put the links in the notes as well, so people can click on there and find you. And thank you so much for spending this time with me.
Thank you so much. Have a fabulous day.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.